Hey everybody, it's me Pluto. Today I'm going to be commentating another star. Well, not really another star. You see, I got this star on June 12th, and that when I got it, this was the first star that I had gotten after the whole situation happened, which I've already made a video on, that made me stop streaming and that stuff. But the commentary in that video is both very out of date, and it's also just not good at all compared to the newer videos I've made. So I wanted to redo it and make it a more entertaining video, because I think I think this is going to be the first video that I'm going to upload. I want it to be something engaging for people, and I think it would be fitting if I actually commentated it pretty well. So this is Final Tragedy Star 4, also known as Wallkick Exhibition. It's a pretty tough star. At the moment, 3 people have it, me, Raimu, and Akaro, who have all gotten the star. It's very difficult, mostly because of the ending, which is pretty tough, but also just Final Tragedy in general is difficult. The beginning of Final Tragedy, though, is shockingly not really much to talk about. It's a pretty basic beginning compared to some other stages, and it's very manageable. There are some stupid things like this part, for example, kind of just mash A there to increase your chances of getting the jump, you know, but this is honestly a pretty manageable beginning. It's not the worst thing in the world. So here is another part that's kind of needs some note. There I intentionally go for a firstie. The reason for that is because if you don't get a firstie there, it's kind of up in the air whether or not you can make the wall kick, because it's so precise. So going for a firstie ensures that I'll always make it. Although I won't lie, sometimes I just get impatient and I die there anyways, because I'm just like, oh fuck this, I don't want to wait until I get a firstie, I'm just gonna go for it, and I die a lot. So don't be like me, be patient. Speaking of being patient, there's a lot of Curiosities here. Nothing too really interesting about Curiosities. The only interesting thing is the texture here, which is a reference to Touhou 7, which I actually have gotten a bit into Touhou. At the moment of recording this, I've beaten 6. I've beaten all of these are on normal. I haven't beaten any of the games on hard yet. I've beaten 6. I've beaten 7. I've beaten 8. I've beaten 11, and I've beaten 18. So those are the ones I've played. And as for extra stages, I've done both the extra stages in 7, the extra stage in 8. The extra stage in 18 as well. So that's how much Touhou I've played. It's a very fun series. If you haven't played Touhou, I'd recommend it. But yeah, the eyeball texture is a reference to Yukari Yakumo. This wall kick section's a bit tricky because the camera, Mario Cam, is used to give yourself a better clarity. And there's just some invisible walls, but there's only one gap in the invisible walls, and it's just for the red coin that's off in the distance that you can see. Each of these 4 boxes has a shell, so that way we can now climb up this little path. And if you've played Bowser's Land of Fantasy, this part will look familiar, at least in spirit. The actual Bowser's Land of Fantasy part is not nearly as ridiculous. This is actually the only major shell gameplay in second run. The only other places where a shell appears is like Bowser 2, or not Bowser 2, Course 8, and I think that's actually it for shell gameplay unless I'm missing something. But yeah, so the only shells in second run are Course 8 and this one. And in Course 8, it's just you get the shell, then you just fall off. Or alternatively, get the red coin. Here I build up some speed to just make this jump. It's easier than the alternate methods. So now we're approaching some of the first difficult jumps here. This part is pretty difficult. Good wording, you're really using diverse words. So here what you want to do is you want to try to avoid getting a false ledger up here. That's the #1 threat. That's public enemy #1. So that's what you want to do. Then we just do a little chain long jump. It's important to note that the blue texture here is slippery. It's ice. It's dangerous. You'll slip on it. You'll trip and die. The ice mechanic will come into play in a moment here because we're getting into the amp section. What is the amp section? Oh boy, you're going to love this one. So, here we have some precision jumps. So something I haven't mentioned until this point is the fact that Mario 64 has a bit of a glitch which causes the game to not render shadows. It happens when a stage is exceptionally big, and if you're too low in the stage, your shadows simply just don't exist. So this makes precision jumps already harder because the only way to judge whether or not you can actually or whether or not you're above ground or not, is to use camera oscillations. The camera will move a bit when you're above ground as opposed to off ground, and you can see that by looking closely at the gameplay here. But the more interesting part is this thing here. Here you need to punch cancel long jump to be able to long jump, since you can't make this with a double jump kick. At least I never have. Getting off a long jump on this platform, however, is quite difficult when you have an amp chasing you. Doing a punch cancel long jump is already pretty tough on this little platform because it's so small, but with this amp chasing you, it can be exceptionally difficult. Here I get a bit lucky though, and the amp ends up circling around me. I've actually made a strategy that would make that more consistent even if the amp doesn't circle around you in preparation for Star 5 in the stage, but I'll explain that when we get to Star 5 since I don't use it in the Star because I simply never thought of it. This is another one of those firsties that I use to ensure that I can make a jump as opposed to like it's actually needed. That is an absurdly precise jump without the firstie. It's precise with the firstie, but it's ridiculous without it. Speaking of ridiculous, we have another pretty silly part here. This little slope jump here. You need to triple jump off a slope, a steep slope, which is already a 3-frame window, which is already kind of tricky. But then you need to perfectly hit the right part of the slope there so that you can make this jump. That's actually not an intended strat. You're supposed to go on some like little cone adventure, do like some invisible QSLGs, fucking just go on a like Mr. Rampage's wild slide there. It's horrible, by the way. Some of the things that you skip in this game are truly worthy of skipping. This game has some dog shit sections. Speaking of dumb sections here, we're approaching this little jump. It's not really stupid per se, it's just kind of It's a bit precise, and it's definitely not free. Again, we have some steep slopes here. Because of the steep slopes, it's best to try to get up that ledge as fast as possible. So if you remember the shadow thing I mentioned, the shadow thing is actually going to get fixed soon, so we're going to be able to actually see where we are for once, which is useful. Believe it or not, Mario 64 does not have the best depth perception already. With no shadows, it's actually even harder. I think that was actually one of like the principles, like Nintendo had like a conference or something, and one of the principles of like designing a 3D game is that the player has a clear shadow to indicate where they are relative to the ground. That's why I've always disliked like realistic shadows in 3D games, because I feel like it's dumb for the purpose of seeing where you are above the ground. It obviously depends how it's done, but it's always, I mean, it's how you've always seen like the Mario and Unity. Fucking Nintendo hire this man. He added shaders. Like that stuff bothers me because I think that's stupid. Again, punch canceling to avoid the very low acceleration when you are trying to run on ice. This Snuffet's a bit scary. He's not necessarily difficult to avoid, he's just kind of intimidating. Snuffets are intimidating because their shots are so deadly. Also, you're going to see Scuttlebug Transmutation. I don't know where he goes, but there he goes. So here you're going to see a bit of an outdated strat. If you've seen Raimu's or Akuro's video on this, you've probably seen a different strategy, which is a bit more consistent than what I do there. In short, I did this before they did it. They didn't have videos of this. I didn't know that strat existed. I didn't think of it. My strategy was good enough, but their strategy is definitely better, so I'll use that when I go for Star 5. So here we have a little heave-ho situation here. The heave-ho kind of gets stuck for some reason. I don't know why. I guess it's just like the little slopes, or maybe he's just really stupid. I don't know. It could be... I mean, the heave-hos are stupid, but... Regardless, little Snuffet situation here. I did die to that Snuffet once, by the way. It was heartbreaking. Might have been twice. Here I use the back of this slope to get some traction here, because I want to try to get as far up on that slope as possible, so that way I don't have a bad angle. And then I ground pound here. I meant to jump off that slope, but I missed the jump, so I have to slide on. You actually don't need to ground pound either. I just do it for comfort, because it's less stressful than not doing that. I don't know if this is true or not, but I'm pretty sure that like when you mess up like that, it would cause your heartbeat to spike, which would naturally cause you to just be more stressed. Not only would you need like downtime to ease up, but you would also probably just have a general higher heartbeat, which would make you more stressed. I don't know if that's even true, but that's at least how I think about it. so I figured I might as well do things that are more comfortable. Speaking of comfortable, this jump is horribly uncomfortable. That's quite precise already there, but remember what I said about how the blue texture is slippery? Well, slippery slope jumps are very difficult. It's about a 2-frame window to gain any height, and if you do it on the 2nd frame, you barely gain height. I actually mess it up a lot here. It's very difficult, and very few people are at any competent at this. On top of that, you also need to be conscious of the fact that slopes have a 5-frame window where you can press the A button on the slope and just not jump. Not only will you not jump, Mario will just do nothing and you'll just go plummeting to death. So you have to be constantly conscious of that and avoid that little 5-frame window every single time you do one of these jumps. If you ever feel like a slope eats your input in this game, that's why. They literally do. Apparently, according to AgLab though, the reason why slopes eat your inputs is because if they didn't, they would literally be completely broken, which is definitely an interesting thought. I definitely wonder how they messed up there. But that's a little tidbit that you might not know. I know when I found out about it, I was furious. Like, fuck, I've been getting robbed of all my jumps, and the culprit was Nintendo. To be fair, Nintendo is known for stealing happiness. So, this section here is a little visually cool. Some simple wall kicks here. Play it extra safe, just to be sure I don't die. Ledge grab here. I'm pretty sure Rambi intends you to wall kick off that little thin thing, but you can just ground down here onto the slopes, that way you can climb up it. He also probably expects you to wall kick off that little thin there, but we're gonna skip that by doing that. The way I did that is actually unoptimal, because it leaves you prone to having a bad angle there, which can either make the jump impossible or make it so that way you can't save yourself. Or not impossible, just more difficult. So note that there's a better way of doing that, where you just kick once and it puts you in a better position. Here we get where Star 4 and Star 5 branch off. On the left side we have Invis Thins and Triple Invis and Thin Arch Tower, which, by the way, Triple Invis is possible. I've done it 33 times so far. At the time of recording, which is July 27th. Although this video will likely be uploaded on the 28th because it's 11:25 p.m. and I doubt the video is going to be uploaded in 30 minutes. Well, maybe it will. It won't take long. So I came up with an angle so I can make that Curiosity without needing another wall kick to get the ledge grab. So now we're just going to do more Curiosities. Everyone loves Curiosities. Woo! I was actually kind of surprised that Raimu and Akuro got this so fast. Or not so fast, but more so at all, because I didn't expect anyone to go for this besides me, because I thought, like, people weren't interested in the ampable shit, but Akuro and Raimu are very good players. I'm excited to see how far they can get in this game. That's just one of the things that I get excited for. So this section looks very difficult, but it's truthfully not that hard. It's pretty simple. I mean, it's not simple, but if you have a lot of experience, it's not too hard. This part's a bit tricky. You need to get a very precise wall kick to make it across this very long chasm here. And you'll see in this attempt, I barely make it. I think what's going to happen here is I barely, like, clip the ceiling, and that causes me to just barely, like, lose a bunch of height. Or maybe not, because it doesn't look like I hit the ceiling there, but maybe I'm wrong, who knows. I did get very close to it at the very least. Here I make another mistake. I don't bait out this Chuckya. That might seem like a minor thing, but if you don't bait out the Chuckya here, there's a very low chance that he'll block the Curiosity path and you're dead. When I say very low, I mean it. It's extremely rare, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. I also get a firstie here. That's not necessary. I actually got here twice in attempts because I choked after this. This star took me about 25 to 30 hours, and despite a lot of chokes and silly stuff, I still very much enjoyed it. It's a fun game. After I got the star, I kind of chilled out on the Mario 64 though, to focus on other things, because, I mean, yeah, you know why. But I've honestly been enjoying that stuff. Like I mentioned all the Toho and shit, and that's been very fun. And there's a lot of great games out there. And, you know, that's just I like doing stuff that's not Mario 64 sometimes. But don't get me wrong, this game is always something I'm going to be passionate about, and I'm very passionate about Dream Edition, and you know, it's just fun, man. And I want to keep doing it. I want to get as far as I can. And you know, every little bit of progress matters because we're getting into the final moments. With this being said, we'll switch back to the raw audio. Hope you all enjoyed this star and this commentary, and I'll see you all in the next video. See you guys then. Bye. Please. I did it.
You're already saving time here if you are making a punch, so you're never missing. And you don't have to be back in the store.